All right, we're going to change gears a little bit now. Pierre, have you given any thought to changes that you'd like to see in the Maine income tax laws, and what changes would you suggest?
There's absolutely a change needed, not just in Maine tax law, but also in the national tax law, and in the sharing arrangements that communities like Old Orchard, for example, are strapped with. There is not a sufficient return of or a tax sharing from the state level vis-a-vis sales tax, for example, that Old Orchard can sustain itself with. That lack of return value for the levels of sales tax collected and its ratio back to the community is skewed. We are not able presently to enjoy the benefits of the significant tourism industry, which is almost our only industry that supports the community, and as a result, we have a tremendously fluctuating workforce, we have a tremendously fluctuating economy, and we need to address that by a local tax on the overall sales tax portion in our community. That's got to be addressed at the state level.
All right. Thank you, Pierre. Cris, have you given thought to changes in the Maine income tax laws, and what would you change?
Taxes are one of those things where if you want to get a vote, you say, I don't believe in taxes, I'm going to eliminate them, let's go for a zero tax. It's probably the dumbest idea anybody's come up with, and the reason is that the notion of taxation is enormously complex. Pierre's quite right. The way revenues are allocated is very, very critical. But there's a more important element that I think Maine, and specifically the Maine legislature, needs to address. For the last 2 years, we've had an administration that focuses on one thing and one thing only: giving away money. The way they focus on doing that is by slashing costs in order to balance budgets, and then providing tax credits, which everybody is supposed to reap benefits for. It doesn't work that way. Slashing costs across the board, as opposed to prudently, cripples vital programs. And giving revenues away eliminates the ability of the state to pay for them. I think what we've got to change is the understanding, and I realize how complicated it is, but we need to change the fiscal understanding about what balancing means. It means keeping costs in balance, but also keeping revenues in balance. As soon as you screw up that scale, disaster follows.
Thank you, Cris. Roxanne,
well,
would you go ahead?
No, you go ahead.
All right. Have you given any thought to changes you'd like to see in the Maine income tax laws, and what would you suggest?
To be honest, no, I haven't. I have thought about the taxes that Pierre was discussing, the sales tax, and how hotels and restaurants here in Old Orchard pay 7% or charge 7%, and then Old Orchard only gets 1% back. So yes, I'd like to see us get more of that percentage back, and I don't think that the businesses want to be charging more tax. They want to receive more of what they've taken in back. And as far as income tax, I love what Warren Buffett said about the 2% paying more, and we need some incentives in Maine regarding Maine tax for people to get out and get jobs and make a fair wage, because if you don't make a fair wage, you're eligible for earned income credit, which is quite a large sum of money that comes back to you, and it's a disincentive to work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Roxanne. Greg, have you given any thought to the Maine income tax laws? And if you have, what changes would you like to see, if any?
Yes, I have, and I'll focus on the Maine income tax because that's the question at hand. As we noticed just in the past few years, they cut the top rate for income tax in the state of Maine, and before you know it, we have a budget deficit for almost that same amount, and now we got to throw people off health care rolls, et cetera, so forth. And I think, as Chris says, it's complex, but then again, you got to have revenues in to support what we do here in the state, to keep the state moving forward. When we cut income tax, and for the top rates, the people can most afford it and take away from the people that least, I think we're in a downward spiral because of that. And quite frankly, people ask me, I just bought a new car and registered in town hall, and the woman says it's going to be $600, you know, that's a lot. And I said, actually, I'm happy to pay that. I'm doing my share. I'm tired of people saying, oh, I want this and I want that, but I don't want to pay for it. There's no free lunch. And I think the income tax should be adjusted to the abilities to pay. We've got some stuff, I don't know whether passed or not, about giving these retirees that want to come here, or millionaires, these tax breaks, or people with millions of dollars in inheritance, a tax break. That's got to come from somewhere. Every time we give a tax break to somebody on income, whether it's earned or not, okay? And then you got hedge fund managers on the federal level paying 15%. I work every day. So do they, but it's not considered work. It's not fair. We need parity and fairness back into the tax system, and progressiveness.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Pierre, the shoreline of Old Orchard Beach has grown congested over the years. Do you think this adds or detracts from Old Orchard Beach as a travel destination, and why?
Well, we have probably some of the most beautiful sandy beach, you know, in northern New England. Probably the most beautiful sandy beach in northern New England. And for the most part, the buildings that currently exist, whether they're residents or mixed with respect to some business and hotel condominium use, a lot of those are grandfathered in on the footprint that they're presently in, and it's not likely that it's going to get more congested. The level of development that is currently on the shoreline is what it is, and there is no more by virtue of state and federal legislation encroachment on the dunes, et cetera. And the community has done a good job in restoring the dunes, and you know, we I think do an excellent job. The Public Works Department and the community at large does a great job on maintaining the beach and keeping it pristine, especially with the level of guests that we have from out of town and out of state during the season. What I would like to see is that we broaden our base in terms of a community so that our little secret, the beauty of Old Orchard Beach, is marketed in a broader fashion so that folks can come and enjoy what we're enjoying in the off-season. Clearly, we have to do more in terms of industry, but the beach is our primary asset. It is a slice of heaven, and yes, in fact, I don't believe that it's detracting. Right where it's at right now is just right. I wouldn't want to see it get any more congested than it is. There's plenty of good access. And as long as we continue to maintain the stock that we have on the beach and improve our standards, we'll be just fine insofar as the beach is concerned.
Thank you, Pierre. Chris, the same question for you. Shoreline of Old Orchard Beach has become congested over the last 50 years, 40, 50 years. Do you think this adds or detracts from Old Orchard Beach as a travel destination, and why or why not?
Roy, with due respect, I'm going to take issue to the question, because
Okay.
I've been here for every one of those years.
Go right ahead.
And behind me is a photograph of that beach, and it's not congested at all. As a matter of fact, it's damn near empty. On the other hand, in the back of the room is another photograph, which is the one I kind of remember as a kid, where you stood on the other side of the pier and you look down toward Ocean Park, and all you can see is umbrellas forever. This beach has been congested from time to time, at appropriate times, my entire life. I'm not a young man. It isn't getting any more congested or less congested. That's the nature of what we love. In the off-season, there's very few people around. except for us. During the summer, we thrive with the people who come to our community. And I will tell you one thing that's changed over 50 years. The nature of that congestion has improved astonishingly. The sorts of people who come here, the kinds of businesses we run, the quality of those businesses continues to improve, and I think it's going to continue to improve.
Okay, thank you, Cris. Roxanne?
Well, I agree with what both gentlemen said, and the only thing that I could add is that we need to expand our seasons. If you were, there were people on the beach in March. We had a beautiful March, not so great at April, but March was beautiful, and if we expanded our seasons, I don't think it would necessarily include March, but into May and October, that would help. Also, I think we need to raise the standards or the bar on what our expectations are of our guests who come to our beach. I believe that we should adopt the carry-on, carry-off policy with trash. I believe that people shouldn't be allowed to smoke on the beach because it is congested. I believe that I hope that with better advertising, that not all sections of our beach in Old Orchard are congested at the same time. There are places that aren't as congested. People just need to be able to spread out more. There needs to be a little bit, maybe better planning of parking on like the west end. Yes. And if we did that, then I think we could spread people out a little bit better. But I think we need to raise the standards of our expectations of people on the beach and what they do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greg? The shoreline of Old Orchard Beach has grown congested over the years. You think this adds or detracts from Old Orchard Beach as a travel destination? Why or why not?
Well, I haven't been here quite 50 years, but I first moved here in '79. And again, I don't think the premise, no offense to you, the premise of the question is correct. It's always been busy when it's on a hot summer day. We've got the same footprints for the buildings. Yes, some have gone up in the air a little bigger than what we used to have, but as far as the footprint on the bottom, it's the same. And I travel around the Northeast, and I introduce myself, and I say I'm from Old Orchard Beach, and I meet a lot of people who come here for vacation, and they light up. So I think it's good as it is. We've done a great job. Our Public Works Department does a fantastic job of cleaning that beach every night. I'm not for restricting what people do there. I mean, as far as smoking go, you're outside. I know that issue came up here in the council, and there were some school kids pushing that. You know, you're outside. Matter of fact, I'd like to see us be able to bring a cold beer down the beach again, but I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. But anyway, now I think it's great. We got a great beach. It's not just my opinion. I meet people all over the Northeast that come here, and they say the same thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And shifting gears again, Pierre, when should a member of one party support the proposed legislation of the opposition?
When it's good policy for the majority of the citizens of the community and of the state, and that's the long and the short of it. If it's serving a narrow constituency, such as one particular industry or something along those lines, at the expense of the common man, of the people, then it should not, in fact, be something that you come together on. There's common ground to be had in many issues, but they have to serve the people, the citizenry, in a broad way.
Cris, do you agree with that?
I almost always agree with Pierre, and I agree with him this time, too. I bring a different kind of perspective because of my background. For 30 years, I was an attorney. I dealt with legislation. I dealt with creating it. I dealt with tearing it apart and understanding how it works. And so if someone from across the aisle proffers a bill, one of the things you need to do is to be able to understand what the heck it says. And it's not as simple as folks think, and Linda's smiling from the back because she understands what I'm saying. They all start out with beautiful, wonderful sounding language, and if it's someone from across the aisle proposing it, you're likely to say, oh yeah, that sounds great, you know, a bill to make everybody happy and healthy and wealthy. But the legislator's job is to be able to pull the exact words of that bill apart and to understand how it impacts different things that aren't so obvious. So would I support a bill? Listen, I'd support a bill from anybody that made sense on the basis of my value system and my constituency, and I'd rip it apart on the floor if I had to, if I thought it was deceptive or devious.
Okay, thank you. And Roxanne?
I guess I agree with Pierre and Cris. As long as the bill was not convoluted and I truly understood it, and also that if it was a financial or fiscal, had a fiscal element, that it was reasonably funded and not, you know, some pie in the sky idea and we'll worry about the money later thing. Thank you.
And Greg?
Question again?
The question is, when should a member of one party support the proposed legislation of the opposition?
When should it?
When?
When it reaches the common good for the citizens of the state of Maine. To me, it's that simple. When it reaches the common good for the citizens of the state of Maine.
Okay, let's stay on that question for a moment.